Greetings, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lou Charest, and I work for Catholic Relief Services on their University Engagement Team. I'm pleased to be joined today by Father Bert Layson, who is an Oblate of Mary Immaculate and based in Mindanao in the Philippines. Welcome, Father Bert, and thank you so much for joining us today. Can you talk a little bit about your background and your current role and your work in peace building?
Yes, I was ordained as an oblate priest in 1988, and I used to be assigned in Muslim communities. When I was assigned in Pikit from 1997, I experienced 4 wars in the span of 6 years. That's why I was appointed by my oblate superior to head the Interreligious Dialogue Ministry, but was also engaged in peace building.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about your work in interreligious dialogue?
Yes, because in the beginning, because of those wars, of course, there was massive evacuations. Christians, Muslims, and the indigenous people. And that's when we started to organize the disaster response team composed of Muslim and Christian volunteers. Under the scorching heat of the sun, or under the falling rain, or amidst bullet fires, we would go to evacuation centers to provide relief goods to the evacuees. We were not selective. We were universal in our approach here.
So
That's why we provided relief goods to Muslims and Christians.
you mentioned there were 4 wars. What are the nature of these conflicts, and is there a religious dimension?
It's not a war between Muslim and Christian, but it is a war between the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, which is a Muslim rebel movement. But it is called as a Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So imagine, no? So, and in Pikit town, where I was assigned, that you have there the Camp Rajamuda, the third largest MILF camp. And that's why what happened was, the sad thing was that there was a ceasefire signed by both parties. The 4 wars that we experienced were declared by the government.
Thank you. And I know that you have worked to help create a zone of peace in Phuket. Can you talk about what that is and the work that you've done to establish that zone of peace?
So that was part of our rehabilitation initiative to rebuild the communities, affected by the wars. It started in one village, and this village was inhabited by indigenous people, Muslims and Christians. And you know what? I have to negotiate with the MILF. War was still going on. But I went to the rebel camp and talked to the MILF commander. Please have pity on our civilians there. They cannot go back yet because still war was going on. We want to declare it a peace zone or space for peace. And you know what? The MILF commander said, Father, I cannot decide myself alone. I need the permit of the Central Committee. I will just inform you. 1 week later, I got a message from the MILF that the Central Committee approved it. We also negotiated with the military, and the military also approved it. That's why it was declared a peace zone. And then the following year, another peace zone, and then another 5 areas again. This time, it was the village officials composed of Muslims and Christians who negotiated with the MILF and the military, of course with our assistance because we have contact with the military and the MILF. And imagine during the launching, the MILF representative, the military representative, the government chairwoman panel, Secretary Deles of the peace process, international personalities, religious leaders, the media, they were there. And it was participated by the local inhabitants. Imagine, it was really a celebration.
Wow.
At least the rebels and the military, they supported our request.
So you've worked as a bridge builder with the local communities in an interreligious way, Christian and Muslim, indigenous, and then brought kind of the plea of peace of the people up to the military, the government, and have been able to foster at least zones of peace and ceasefires through your work?
Yes. That's why if war escalates, peace also escalates. That's what I discovered.
So, I mean, I have to ask, this sounds like very dangerous. You mentioned bullets flying, you're meeting with the rebel commanders. Do you feel like you personally have been in danger, and how do you have the courage to sustain this work, to confront it, to work for peace?
Well, sometimes yes, but it's very risky, very dangerous situation. I feel fear, but we must believe more in our faith rather than in our fear. To do it, to follow the will of God, peace for all of us and for the people, especially there. That's why even in dangerous situation, you have to pursue this mission. That's why, and I always believe that there is basic goodness in the hearts of every person, whether you are a rebel or a soldier. That's why we negotiated with them and made an appeal, and they really, committed.
And believe that so deeply that you risk your life for your people. You've talked, I heard you share a story that while there's been victims of the conflict, you feel like the attitude of being victimized is not ultimately helpful. Can you share how you and your colleagues have been able to help victims become empowered and move on from this conflict psychologically and otherwise?
First, of course, we conducted trauma healing sessions with the evacuees, especially the children, the mothers, It's part of our post-conflict activity, And not only that, we conduct also culture of peace seminars because the war has also broke down the relationship of the inhabitants there. That's why we conducted culture of peace seminar, and the last part of that is reconciliation, where they sit in a victim offender setting and tell their own stories, Christian, Muslim, and they cry, and cry, really, After that, they offer lighted candles to each other and they embrace each other and they cry. Very emotional, to repair the broken relationship. That's why very successful siya, that they were very happy, And we continue to do that until now. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. So that experience together, by sharing your personal story, your pain,
Yes.
with others who have been involved in the conflict with others of different religious traditions
Yes.
has led to a process of reconciliation,
Yes.
healing, and from there have the communities and people been able to move on and into a peaceful
Precisely.
settlement.
This is what we call the horizontal peace process.
The horizontal peace process.
Yeah. The vertical peace process between the government and the MILF. As I always say, even if there is a peace agreement between the government and the MILF, it is not a guarantee that there will be genuine peace. As long as there is that unseen war still going on in the hearts of the people of Mindanao. That unseen war is hatred, anger, bias, and prejudice. That's why we are also processing that at the grassroots level. This is what we call the horizontal peace process. And it has also a positive effect. That is our contribution to the vertical peace process at the top level. So here is to repair the broken relationship among the local inhabitants here, to promote harmony. That's why there's dialogue and support and so on. Joint celebrations during Ramadan, during Fiesta, during Christmas celebrations, Christian and Muslims, they gather together.
It's a beautiful model of harmony.
Yeah,
Just
they are very happy, really.
one final question, Father. You're here in the United States for a global peace building conference. What message are you here to share, and what would you like U.S. university, college and university students to know about the process of peace, or if they want to engage, be in support, be in solidarity? You have recommendations for U.S. students who would like to become leaders of peace in their community or globally.
Yes, they play a very important role, the academe, because we really need more peace builders in the world, especially nowadays, you know. That's why we do a lot of advocacy. The bottom, the middle, and the top.
So
And as
three
a,
levels of advocacy.
yes, that's why it is a collaborative effort. We cannot do it alone there without the support of national, international personalities and organizations there in Pikit. But of course, we started it there because you have to initiate it. But we cannot do it alone without the support of the national and international organizations and personalities. That's why I always say, if you want to go near, walk alone. If you want to go far, walk together. We really have to exert effort. The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. That's why I always say, we are all human beings and we belong to the same human family. And we are all brothers and sisters, wherever you are and whatever you are. And this world is our only home.